Pulsa DiNura, the lashes of fire. Some stories are written in books, some are told in whispers, some are never meant to be spoken aloud. In Jewish mystical tradition, words are not only sound, they are action. They are believed to move something in the upper worlds. Tonight's story stands on a dangerous line, between prayer and judgment, between faith and human desire. In the narrow streets of Jerusalem, and in the quiet hills of Tzfat, one name is spoken very carefully: Pulsa DiNura. Not a charm, not magic, a lawsuit filed in the heavenly court. What it is: Pulsa DiNura means lashes of fire. The words come from Aramaic. It is not a spell. It is not witchcraft. In the stories, it is described as a legal case, a case brought before the heavenly court. The purpose is not to kill. The purpose is to remove protection, to strip a person of spiritual defense. After that, whatever fate is waiting is allowed to reach him. But there is a rule, a very dangerous rule. If the court decides the person is innocent, the judgment does not disappear. It returns to the people who asked for it. The messengers. The stories do not describe demons. They describe messengers, angels of judgment. Their role is not mercy. It is enforcement. They do not strike the body. They act on something unseen. They remove the shield that protects a person's life. They cut the link between the soul and its protection. In these stories, the danger is not the angels. The danger is the request, because the heavenly court cannot be pressured. It cannot be convinced, it cannot be manipulated. And once a case is opened, it must be decided. The ritual. It cannot be done alone. 10 men are required. A minyan. Men who have fasted. Men who have immersed themselves in a mikveh. It is done at night, at midnight, not inside a synagogue. Under the open sky in the stories. Inside a cemetery. They stand in a circle, not around a living person, around the grave of a righteous man. 10 black candles are lit. The words are not read. They are spoken from memory, slowly, very carefully. Because a single mistake is said to change the meaning, they address the heavenly court. They present the accusation. They ask for judgment. The point of no return. At the final words, no one moves. No one speaks. The candles are still burning. They are not blown out. They are not left to fade. The flames are lowered into a bowl of vinegar. The light collapses. In the stories, this is the moment the case is sealed. There is no closing prayer. There is no appeal. Once the flames die, the judgment has already begun. The man. There is a story told quietly in religious neighborhoods. It is a warning. The man is usually called Rav Mendel, not his real name. He was respected, educated, a serious scholar. But he had one weakness: greed. There was a dispute over land in the north, a place considered holy. Mendel wanted to sell it. for a very large sum. One man stopped him, a quiet rabbi, unknown, uninvolved in politics. He refused to sign. Mendel became convinced this was not a business problem. It was a spiritual one, and he decided to take the case to a higher court. The night. They went at night. No moon, very little light. A small cemetery near the north. The wind moved through the trees. Gravel cracked under their shoes. Mendel stood in front, a black candle in his hand. Hot wax fell on his skin. He did not react. The words were spoken, slowly, exactly. Then Mendel raised his voice. He named the man. He made the accusation. He demanded judgment. The candles were lowered into the vinegar. Darkness. And they left, certain that heaven had listened. The return. Nothing happened. Days passed, then weeks. The quiet rabbi continued his life, teaching, praying, working. But Mendel began to change. First, it was the heat. He said his body felt on fire, even at night, even in winter. Then came the figures. Standing beside his bed, tall, still, without faces. He said they were holding instruments of judgment, made of light. He said something else. They were not angry. They were waiting. 40 days. In these stories, judgment takes time. 40 days. A full cycle. On the 40th day, Mendel left his house early in the morning. The street was quiet. No cars, no voices. Witnesses later said he suddenly stopped, in the middle of the sidewalk. He lifted his head, not to the sky, slightly above it. His face changed, not pain, recognition. He pressed his hand to his chest. He collapsed. By the time help arrived, he was already gone. The report said, a massive heart attack. The sign. The burial society prepared the body. They had done this many times before. They knew what illness looks like. They knew what injury looks like. But on Mendel's chest, directly over his heart, the skin was dark, not bruised, charred, as if a thin line of fire had passed through him. No explanation was written down. No comment was made. But the story did not stay silent. The verdict. The heavenly court had ruled, not as Mendel expected. The quiet rabbi was found innocent, and the judgment did not disappear. It returned. Pulsa DiNura is not a weapon. It is not something you aim at another person. It is a mirror. It reflects the truth behind the request. And if the request is driven by anger, by pride, by personal gain, the fire does not look for an enemy. It comes back to the only name written on the case: yours. The deeper fear. There is another fear behind this story, not fear of angels, not fear of punishment, fear of prayer itself. In Jewish tradition, prayer is meant to heal, not to harm, to soften judgment, not to accelerate it. Many teachers warn about one danger, not the words, the intention, because a person can pray correctly and still be wrong. Anger can sound like justice. Desire can sound like faith. In stories about Pulsa DiNura, this is the real warning. The ritual is not dangerous because it calls heaven. It is dangerous because it reveals what the person truly brings into the request. Not belief, intention, and intention cannot be hidden. This story is told as a warning, not as a promise, not as a method, not as a ritual, only as a reminder. In these traditions, heaven is not dangerous. People are, because the most powerful part of any prayer is not the words. It is the reason you say them.